February 23rd, 2021 Parish Planning and Zoning Meeting. Would you all please stand while Mr. LaSalle Williams says the invocation and pledge of allegiance?
Dear God, again, we thank you for allowing us another blessed day. Thank you for life, for health, and for strength. We ask that you let your Holy Spirit dwell in our meeting tonight as we address the problems of this parish. And thank you for the government. We pray for not only our local government, but our national government as well. And we pray, Lord, for those who come tonight seeking our help. Let the Holy Spirit guide us, this board, and this staff, that we may do that which is pleasing in our sight. We just pray that you continue to watch over us and bless us in a special way. This we offer in this prayer. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Christy, would you please call the roll?
Chair Kirk Smith.
Here.
Vice Chair Julia Dickerson. Here. Miss Latricia Cobb. Mr. Keith Dubrock.
Here.
Miss Sharon Galicia. Here. Miss Janelle Hyatt. Mr. Art Little. Mr. Jake Porche. Mr. Carl Vincent is absent tonight. Mr. LaSalle Williams.
Here.
And Miss Deanne Winey. Here.
Thank you, Christy. Our procedures have been adjusted to follow social distancing protocol. This is an 11-member board. It will take a majority of those members present to grant or deny any request heard tonight. The chair will refrain from voting unless the vote may affect the outcome. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the requests from the agenda. The planning staff will give a presentation and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's presentation, or if someone from the audience has comments, they will need to fill out a blue request to appear form located on the round table in the lobby. The form must be given to a staff member prior to the reading of the agenda item. When it is your turn to speak, you will be asked to proceed to the second floor meeting room. Please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and the nature of your request. As required by this board's bylaws, in all cases, the proponents will be limited to 10 minutes. Opponents will be granted 10 minutes as well, with each speaker allowed no more than 3 minutes. I recommend that a spokesperson be selected if there's a large group wanting to speak on the same agenda item. If 4 or more speaker request forms are submitted, the time allowed for individual speakers will be limited based upon the number of forms submitted. The chair has the right to limit speakers who present redundant information or personal attacks. In unique situations, the chair may extend or the board may vote to extend the time allotted for speakers. After discussion, the board will vote on each request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. The exceptions and variances are final tonight. The rezoning cases will go before the police jury for final action on February 25th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is being filmed by the Calcasieu Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesday and Thursday following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the website at www.cppj@calcasieuParish.gov, Channel 5 in Lake Charles, Sulphur, Moss Bluff, Westlake, Benton, DeQuincy, and Gillis, Channel 99 in Carlos and Grand Lake. Please either turn off or silence all electronic devices. Take appropriate action to approve the minutes of January 19th, 2021 Planning and Zoning meeting. I will entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. All those in favor state aye. Aye. The minutes are approved. Item 6, take appropriate action on VAR-1220-0147, a request by Quentin Kramer, Ed Ux, for a variance to decrease the rear yard setback requirement, required 15 feet, requesting 5 feet. Location of request is 6733 John Ezell Road in Ward 8. There will be no action on this as this case has been withdrawn. Next item, take appropriate action on VAR 0121-0149, a request by Ryan Hood for a variance to allow an accessory building to exceed the maximum square footage allowed, 2,000 square feet, requesting 4,792 square feet at 7535 King Court Street in Ward 3. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Ms. Dickerson, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn.
This property is in the South Lake Charles area and encompasses 1.16 acres of single-family residential zone land. The applicant lost his original shop due to Hurricane Laura and intends to rebuild. The shop construction will exceed the maximum square footage allowed within the single-family residential zoning district. Because minimal impacts are to be expected and the development is consistent with the similar structures in the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions. That the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, and that the accessory building be for personal use only.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. There are no blue cards on this agenda item. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? There being none, motion passes. Item 8, take appropriate action on EX-0121-0093, a request by Black Lake Land and Oil Company LLC for an exception to allow a borrow pit 100 acres in the 3000 block of East Tank Farm Road in Ward 3. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn.
This property is located in the South Lake Charles area and encompasses 120 acres of agricultural land. The applicant would like to excavate a 100-acre borrow pit. Upon completion, the pit will be used for personal use. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions. That the development must be in accordance with Section 26-1221H4 of the Parish Code of Ordinances. That a road damage bond and the amount determined by the parish engineer must be submitted to the Division of Engineering prior to the issuance of a development permit. That a letter of no objection from the Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 2 be submitted prior to the issuance of a development permit, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We do have a blue card, however, I think it's a faux pas. It says agenda item 8, which is this agenda item, but I think it was meant for agenda item 7. So it was Mr. Hood who was the applicant on agenda item 7, right? And it was general comments, so. Correct.
It is number red.
Oh, okay. Okay. In that case, bring Mr. Hood up first, but who does he represent? Is he?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Name and address for the record, sir.
my name is Ernie Broussard. I'm at 4415 Isles Road, and we're here representing the owner, Bayou, Black Bayou, I should say.
Black Lake Land and Oil?
Black Lake Land and Oil, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Broussard regarding this? I don't think we do. We do have a blue card, Mr. Broussard, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it just says general comments, so. Correct. Guess I hadn't seen this one before, so.
All right. I just had a few questions.
Name and address for the record, sir.
Ryan Hood. I live on 7535 King Court Street. The road is right across the street from where that pit's going to be. I was just curious, we have a bad drainage issue there already. I'm just curious if there's gonna be collecting rainwater being pumped out to the existing drainage in the area, if there was anything that was gonna be done with that, as far as upgraded drainage. I mean, we're on the verge of flooding sometimes just because the water is not running off as fast as it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, let me just interrupt for a second and hate to be a stickler, but typically his general comments are for comments, they're not really
Right.
for questions. So if Mr. Hood can maybe finish his comments and then the board can discuss after that what might be appropriate.
Okay.
So, Mr. Hood, if you understand, if you can just make your comments and then we'll get, the comments are for discussion purposes for the board.
Right.
So if you can finish, you've got 3 minutes to make comments.
Okay.
So if you finish those, then we'll take up the discussion after that.
Okay, I guess I'm finished. I was worried about drainage, the roads, and, you know, if there's gonna be any impact on the roads. I mean, dirt pit, there's a lot of times mud that's on the roads. And another concern was what becomes of the dirt pit afterwards. Does it become a landfill or?
No, it's going to become a private use pond.
Okay.
Okay. That I can answer.
All right.
Mr. Crane?
In terms of the drainage, if you see in the stipulations, we do have that they'll have to submit
Right.
a request for a runoff management plan or a waiver. And in terms of road, there are several conditions. If you look under this chapter, the ordinance, section 26-122, it lists all the stipulations that they have to keep the road clean, dust down, and all of that. So we basically have that already in
Okay.
our stipulations that they have to meet.
Okay.
When Ms. Tun presented it, she went through all those items, so.
We couldn't hear anything. The speakers aren't working out here, so we were trying to, I didn't know what was on. But thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Does the applicant want to come back and afford him the opportunity? Okay, well, does the board have any questions for the applicant based on what the gentleman
I just have a
presented?
question. How is
Okay.
he mentioned something about, are they gonna pump the water out? Is that gonna go into Black Bayou when they do that? Do they have a certain time frame, or not time frame, but I guess what I'm asking is if everything's flooded and Black Bayou's flooded up, are they allowed to pump water out to get to their dirt? How does that work?
Well, they have to get a discharge permit, stormwater discharge permit from DEQ. And so there's going to be stipulations on when they can pump, I'm sure, and where they can pump it to. So, and that will probably come out in the runoff management plan as well.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Broussard regarding this? The question was about pumping out the pit into
Yes.
the drain.
We're very familiar with that. This is going to be a phased or sectionalized development over time. Actually, we want to retain as much water on site as we can anyway. And the lateral that is right next to it's a parish number lateral, actually drains south. You know, so we think that what we're doing is actually going to enhance that. And even the dirt on the road, we have sweepers and scrapers that by law, we know that we're supposed to keep it clean, and that's part of our development footprint, if you will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from Mr. Little?
My biggest concern was, and I got my answer, my question and answers was in regards to dust control. That 100-acre pond is due south of, looks like a subdivision. It's
Yes,
gonna be
sir.
swamped with dirt, dust in the summertime.
Yep.
But according to our ordinance, that there's requirements that controls the dust. So that's just information for the public, that there is dust control in the ordinance that's going to cover and take care of those residents to the north and around the pond.
Yes, sir, Mr. Little, that's correct. So,
And Mr. Chair, we're also keeping a natural buffer, 300-foot natural buffer along the outside to actually deter that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion on that matter? Ms. Christie, roll call vote?
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Cobb?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Dubrow?
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
Ms. Hyatt?
Yes.
Ms. Felicia?
Yes.
And Ms. Whiting?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 9, take appropriate action on EX-0121-0094, a request by Heidi Welch et al. For an exception to allow manufactured home park 200 spaces at 6425 Highway 90 East in Ward 8. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn.
This property is located in the Manchester area and encompasses approximately 195 acres of light industrial zone land. FEMA intends to lease the property from the Welch family and intends to develop a 200-space manufactured home park to provide temporary housing due to Hurricane Laura and Delta. The proposed manufactured homes will be constructed to the Department of Housing and Urban Development codes, which are HUD codes. The proposed development is not designed for the use of recreational vehicles. The initial lease between the property owners and FEMA would be through February 2022. Should FEMA need any potential extensions, the extension would be determined at that time. The site will be served by the Calcasieu Parish Water District Number 5 and the Calcasieu Parish Sewer District Number 11. There have been preliminary discussions between FEMA and the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development on potential traffic improvements needed as well as drainage impacts. Also, should this development be approved, FEMA intends to have displaced residents living on site around the 4th of July. Because the proposed use is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions. That the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development. That all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to adjacent properties. That a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering. That permitting is subject to approval from the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development. That the exception is only for temporary housing provided by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. That a 6-foot wooden privacy fence must be installed along the east and south side of the development prior to the certificate of occupancy. And that a separate application must be submitted and approved to allow the manufactured home park to continue operating following completion of FEMA's temporary housing mission.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. We do have one blue card in opposition, Ms. Judy Bernard. If the applicant would want to speak first.
Hi, I'm Judy Bernard, 1133 Erica Drive, Albuquerque, Louisiana.
Right.
Okay.
Is the applicant here?
Your name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, good evening. My name's Gerard Stoller. I'm representing the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and I'm the lead for the federal recovery effort in Calcasieu Parish following the hurricanes of last summer, Hurricanes Laura and Delta.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for this gentleman? If not, don't go far. We have some opposition that's going to come up.
Okay.
Speak,
All right.
and then we'll address it from there. Thank you, sir. before the person comes up, we were handed another blue card after it was read. It's up to the board whether you want to hear this because it should be presented prior to the reading of the card. Does the board want to hear? You do? Okay.
Just for completeness sake, maybe just a motion to allow the second card.
Motion made by Ms. Felicia. Second by Ms. Winey.
Thank you. Any opposition?
Any opposition to this? It being done? Passes. Okay, Ms. Bernard?
Okay, I have a few questions. We have a red light on 397, and we don't have a red light anymore to our way. So that's added, you're talking about 200 families, possibly 400 cars. So they're acting like there's gonna be no traffic problem, but there will be some traffic problems. So what are they gonna do about, the police bureau and FEMA gonna do about the traffic that we're gonna have because of this? Did they study the traffic, or they just decide, I understand people are displaced.
I can answer your question, ma'am. The permitting is subject to approval of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development. So that is considered.
Okay, but nobody not considering the traffic. We already have a high amount of traffic.
That's part of the process.
Okay, I have another question. Now they said they're gonna come in July. So if somebody is there in July and they get housing in October and they leave, do they have another list to replace those people? And will those people also have to leave when that due time is up, which would be February 2022? Will they stipulate that to let people know?
As of right now, it's through that period of time, and they can request an extension. And the extension would be for, staff, help me out?
I'm going to refer to Ms. Wallace. She has been,
It could be 6 months, it
Okay.
could be a year, it depends on what's needed, but FEMA would consult with us and the state as well to come up with that plan.
Okay.
Okay, so that would be in writing that the time ends in February 2022, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't,
Y'all will have it in writing that it ends February 2022. Correct?
Mr. Crane?
Correct. But it's subject to extension.
Subject to
Right,
extension.
right.
Okay, so that means if it is, we'll probably be back again.
Well, it's
Now, and I have another question.
Okay.
Will they be policing themselves, or will there be security there?
I think that's a question for the applicant, ma'am.
Okay,
When he comes up.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. The applicant.
Was there another?
There is another blue card.
Okay.
I think the question, sir, that had come up was, is there going to be security on site?
And we'll work with the local jurisdiction in terms of providing security, just like there is at any other commercial park. Now, what we will have, though, we are going to hire and we'll have a site manager that will be responsible for that entire location. And that's where they will be 24 hours a day. They'll live on the site. And we're also going to have, for lack of a better term, case managers that will work with each of the households that are housed at this location to work with them on their permanent housing solution. Because again, this is a temporary site. And certainly would like to wrap the housing mission up within the program timeline that you heard in the initial presentation.
Any other questions?
I got one question for the applicant. in reference to the staff's recommendation number 6, that a 6-foot wooden privacy fence must be installed along the east and south side of the development prior to the certificate and of occupancy. Do you have any problem with that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir, I couldn't, were you referring to number, condition number 6?
Right, 6-foot fence on the east and south side.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, right now, I think it's at 6 foot 4 inches in the zone, right?
Yes, it's a 6-foot 4-inch wooden fence, and it actually goes around the entire perimeter of the site.
And your name and address, sir?
I am David Klon, I'm with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
And
Your
David's
address?
the site engineer for the,
Your address, sir?
yeah.
Your address?
Oh, site engineer.
Your
Oh,
address?
my address? I'm working out of the JFO in Baton Rouge right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Cobb, you had a question?
Yes. When they find permanent quarters for the people, the trailer that becomes empty, what happens then? Is it taken off from the trailer park, or does it stay there and you put somebody else in there, or?
Okay, you're talking about once the family leaves?
Yes.
Okay. We will remove, FEMA's responsible for removing the unit. We are also working with the state, though, to establish a sales program for those units as well. But that won't be done at this location. It'll be done at our staging area in Alexandria.
Okay, so once they find permanent residents, the trailer is taken away from the site?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Little.
I know we're rezoning, or we're doing an exception on 195 acres. Is that fencing going around that whole 195 acres, or just on that piece of property that you?
Just on the piece of property that was briefed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And our blue card that we accepted is from Miss Joanna Gatlin, 1425 Manchester Road.
Good evening. My name is Joanna Nixon Gatlin. I live at 1425 Manchester Road, Iowa, Louisiana, 70647. I'm a resident of East Town Estates. And actually, some of my questions was already answered. But one of the things that I didn't know from looking at the application, and maybe I overlooked it, are these full-size trailers?
Ms. Wallace?
They are manufactured homes.
Okay.
Okay. Like Ms. Coss was saying, once a person moves out, y'all completely move, or they will completely move the trailer from the trailer park.
That is basically what the gentleman said.
Okay.
That was in here before you.
Okay, and number 7, when it seems like FEMA needs more time, will there be another notice put up in front of the property, letting the community, my area and the surrounding area know that there is an upcoming hearing about this, or how would we find out?
Ms. Wallace?
If FEMA needs an extension, it would just fall under this exception if it's approved. Now, if the property owner or someone after FEMA would like to develop a manufactured home park here, that would have to come for another hearing.
Okay.
But as long as FEMA's using it, then it would fall under this exception.
But after, when we would reach February 2022, they would have to come and request an extension at least, correct? As I understand it?
That's not the way our recommendation
Oh, okay.
reads.
Okay.
The recommendation reads that it's for FEMA. So if FEMA gets an extension, it would still be under that.
Right, no, but that's what I'm saying. FEMA would have to come before us, or at least request
No.
from the staff. They would-
You would have to do a stipulation that says that the exception is only through February of 2022. That's not how the recommendation reads right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Well, that's the part that concerns me, because it's our neighborhood and we need to know when FEMA is leaving and when they're not. I mean, we won't know unless somebody brings it to our attention. I just think, we should have a right to know how long this is, at least, I mean, you're saying February of 2022, excuse me, but now you're saying we won't be notified. It's just like up to FEMA to do what FEMA wants to do, and we just have to wait on them.
Based on how it's written, it goes through next February and can be extended, correct?
Correct. But it's
As-
only for FEMA.
Oh, right, correct, only for FEMA.
Yes.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
It's all, they can request, it is written to where it goes through February of 2022, exclusively for FEMA, and they can request an extension, only for FEMA.
Okay. And when FEMA's finished, everything's pulled up and the land is back like it was.
Correct, and if you recall, Ms. Wallace said if another applicant wanted to do that, they would have to come back before this board.
Correct.
That leaves our whole neighborhood concerned, because once it's laid down, it's easy to find another applicant to take it over. I mean, I don't think that's very fair.
But, and I have to have the applicant speak, but I think they would have to put it in the condition it was when they received it?
Yes. I mean, when there was when there was Crying Eagle on 397 in 2005 or 2006, when he was there, which is about a mile away, everything was taken up. Of course, that's the port's property, but everything was taken up. It became grass area like it was, grazing for cows like it was.
Okay, we reached a time limit, Ms. Gatlin, but I'll ask staff.
That is not part of the stipulation
Okay.
at this point in time. So just to be clear, FEMA, this application is strictly for FEMA. And if approved, their timeline is through 2022, with the possibility that they may extend some of that, because they may still have families in there that may not have been placed in a home. So they are going to need probably some flexibility for that. Secondly, there's not a stipulation in here that says that all the infrastructure has to be taken up and gone away. Now, if FEMA, if they leave the site totally, they're going to have to do that unless somebody else comes in there before them and says, I want to make application to come before this board to rezone this property. And so that's going to have to be, we're going to need to know that. But there will be a time period that, let's say nobody makes application and FEMA's contract ends, then yes, that site has to be put back.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gatlin.
If I could just add something, Mr. Chair. We have weekly meetings with FEMA where they give us updates on their progress housing our residents. And our meeting was today. It's every Tuesday. And they advised us today that they've housed nearly 1,000 families thus far. And even with all the work that they're doing now, leasing existing pads and going on individual home sites, they still are looking at a gap of about 826 pads being short. So that's 826 families that basically have nowhere to go in this area. And I believe that the gentlemen that are representing FEMA and the Corps of Engineers can say more about it. But this is their last resort. They were hoping that they could meet the need elsewhere, and they have not been able to, so that's why they're moving to these group sites. But they can speak more on it, but I wanted to point out that there's a dire need for housing for these folks.
Sure. Thank you. Does the applicant want to come back and address any of this? I don't see anybody there. There's no one there.
Yes,
I got a staff question, maybe elementary before we come back. Did I understand her to say that once FEMA leaves, See, everybody got their homes, they move out everything. Does she want to see cattle and horses back in
Well.
that field?
I think her reference, Coach, was to go back to what it was prior.
Agriculture.
Yes. The question that had come up at the end of the discussion was about, once the units leave, do you take the infrastructure of sorts, or do you just leave it?
Our going-in position is we will return that site to as close as possible to the way it looks right now. Now, if the owner wants to do something different, then he would have to deal with the parish on that. But that's our going-in position on it.
Okay. Anything else to add to what was discussed?
Once all the people are placed, say you have 2 people that are still in the site and that have not been placed, then you would have to get an extension for those 2 people.
Right. Yeah, let me clarify something.
They're concerned about the time limit.
Yes, ma'am. Let me clarify something on how this extension works. First of all, the state of Louisiana would have to ask FEMA to extend the housing program, okay? That would then, once that's approved, then that would trigger us returning to the parish to work with you to, again, get an extension for the timeline right now beyond February of 2022.
That's the only thing that people there are concerned about, the length of time, if how much of extension they would have to have.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Any question from the board to any of the staff regarding this item?
Mr. Chair, question for the staff. The way the property is currently zoned, this is for housing, for emergency housing, temporary housing. Is this property zoned properly to do if they decide, once they're finished and the owner decides he wants to do a trailer park, is it zoned properly, all he's got to do? Okay. So
It is not zoned properly. It's currently zoned light industrial.
Right.
And so under light industrial, that's why we're only doing a zoning exception, because it allows for residential uses in a light industrial area.
Okay.
And we're doing it because this is temporary.
Correct, okay.
But if somebody wants to do a permanent manufactured home park or a permanent RV park or anything like that, they're going to have to rezone that property.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Christie, roll call vote.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Galicia?
Yes.
Mr. DeBrock?
Yes.
Ms. Cobb?
Yes.
Ms. Whiting? Yes. Ms. Dickerson?
Yes.
Ms. Hyatt?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
8-4.
Motion passes. Item 10, take appropriate action on EX-0121-0095, a request by West Family Irrevocable Trust for an exception to allow a 5-year extension on an existing borrow pit at 3335 Ellis Moss Road in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions. Motion by Ms. Dickerson, second by Ms. Hyatt. Ms. Tunn.
This property is in Corliss and encompasses approximately 63 acres of agricultural land. In 2016, the applicant received approval to excavate 2 borrow pits for a total of 39 acres, with a stipulation that the excavation was for a period of 3 years. Since no work has been performed at this time, the applicant is requesting a 5-year time extension. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-122 1H4I through XII of the Parish Code of Ordinances, that the extension is approved for 5 years from date of approval, that permitting is subject to a letter of no objection from the owner of the electrical transmission lines, that a road damage bond in the amount determined by the parish engineer must be submitted to the Division of Engineering prior to the issuance of a development permit, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tun. Yes, we can check with the applicant, see if they have anything to add to the staff's presentation. And want to point out for the matter, there are no blue cards on this agenda item. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any questions or comments by the board? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There being none, motion carries. Item 11, take appropriate action on RZ-1220-0180, a request by Gary Coppels to rezone from agricultural A1 to general commercial C2 to allow commercial development of restaurant in the 2900 block of Highway 27 North in Ward 4. I will entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Mr. Little. Ms. Tun.
This property is located in the Sulphur area, North Sulphur area, and encompasses approximately 0.5 acres of agricultural zone land. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to general commercial to construct a drive-through and walk-up restaurant. The proposed restaurant will also have outdoor seating for patrons. Because the proposed zoning is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development and the light source cannot be visible to the adjacent properties, that screening must be provided in accordance with Section 26-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances prior to final electrical approval, that permitting is subject to approval of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, and that a runoff management plan must be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tun. I guess we can also ask if the applicant would like to add to this. I do want to point out no blue cards on this agenda item either. Okay. Any questions or comments by the board? There being none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There being none, motion carries. Item 12, take appropriate action on RZ-0121-0181, a request by CMH Homes Incorporated to rezone from single-family residential R1 to mixed residential R2 to allow mixed residential development, Greystone Subdivision, in the 7800 block of Highway 3256 in Ward 8. I will entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Ms. Dickerson, second by Ms. Cobb. Ms. Tun.
This property is located west of the Iway area and encompasses approximately 113 acres of single-family residential zone land. In 2015, this property was rezoned from agricultural to single-family residential to allow single-family residential development for the construction of stick-built homes. CHM Homes recently purchased this property and would like to rezone it to mixed residential to allow manufactured homes. Attached in your packets is the exterior rendering of the proposed manufactured homes the developer intends to place on the lots within the future development. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted.
Thank you, Ms. Tun. There are 5 blue cards on this agenda item.
And Mr. Chairman, if with 5 blue cards, we'll have 2 minutes each for the opposition.
Okay, we'll afford the applicant the opportunity first. Come and speak.
Good evening. Thank you for taking time to see me. I represent CMH Homes. We're here to do a land use change.
Your name and address for the record, sir.
I beg your pardon, sir?
Your name and address for the record.
I'm sorry.
Your name and address for the record.
Doug Anderson, yes, that's correct. 725 West Salem Road.
Okay, do you want to discuss the development?
Well, the discussion I have is strictly, it's a land use change. That's what we're after. We want to maintain it as a subdivision and do it in the right way. It's not a mobile home park. That's not what our intent is to do at all.
Okay. Any questions by the board for Mr. Anderson?
Question?
Yes, sir.
Is these modular homes, are you putting them on these spots and you're selling them, or are they gonna put their own on each one, buying the land and put it on their spots?
They're going to be sold with land bulk packages, regular conventional financing, just like any site. They will appraise the same way too.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Anderson? Thank you, sir. Don't go far. We have first blue card, Michael Vanek.
And as Mr. Vanek comes up, just again, another reminder just for 2 minutes.
Right.
Good evening. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
I'm Michael Vanek, 201 Oakwood, Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm a 35-year broker that's representing former owners of this tract that they were also the original developers. And they spent 4 years getting all the planning done and a lot of the infrastructure that's already completed. Since then, the applicant acquired this property, and with my meetings with Tim and with the engineering department and Harris Planning, the only plans that have been presented by this applicant were the plans that are owned by my client, okay? And my conversations with Tim, I'd say, Tim, what do you know what they're going to do? Is there going to be a lasting effect on the surrounding area, the adjacent property owners? One of my associates is the developer that's got multi-millions of dollars in the adjacent development, single-family residential. Well, our original plan was single-family residential. Now they're going, this applicant wants to put manufactured homes in there. Now, I'm not necessarily here to contest that. What I'm here and asking you to do is to table it, because I think there's a lot of information that hasn't been presented to you on this. The appointed attorney of the heirs in Houston sent a letter to all the people involved, being Harris Planning and the engineering department, the engineer that drew up the plans, and the applicant, that they
That's time.
Thank you,
should not
Mr.
utilize any of the
Thank you, Mr. Vanek.
previous owner's stuff, okay? So what I'm just
Mr. Vanek, your
asking
time
you-
has expired. Thank you.
Sir?
Your time has expired.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Randall Hood.
My name's Randall Hood, 560 Diamond Drive, Untitled Louisiana, 70611. Primarily, I'm here to see what criteria was used to consider this piece of property a subdivision. We started designing this subdivision 5 or 6 years ago. Subsequently, to a number of actions, I own the blueprint, owned by Seaway Estate and Greystone as well. I've not given anybody any permission whatsoever to use these blueprints or any permits or any inspection that I was paid for associated with those two companies. I don't know if that's been used or not. That's what I'm here to find out.
Mr. Hood, this is just a rezone request. We don't have anything other than that.
Okay, that's all I'm here to find out, and at this point here, like I said, my attorney in Houston is placed your own notice. Nobody has used any of this data without my express permission. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mauricio Santa Coloma. I live in 5950 Blue Sage Road. I represent the developer and owner of the Subdivision Sugarcane Towns, which is the $200 million project located next door to this manufacturer proposed subdivision. Over 5 years ago, this board approved my rezoning to move from agriculture to residential. And since then, I have been following all the rules by the local authorities in order to create an outstanding project. And almost every aspect of the project, we have been going above and beyond of the Paris standard. And we consider that move back from a traditional building to manufactured homes on the project next door, decrease the value of our project. This large investment I just mentioned. And that's why I'm opposed to this rezoning.
Any questions for Mr. Santa Coloma? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, how are y'all?
Good evening.
So, my name is Valentina Aristizabal. The address I listed is 4116 Center Street, in Lake Shore, Louisiana. I'm here to oppose this project because last year I made a huge investment on one of the properties of the neighboring development. As you know, when you're young, you're trying to build your first house. And you're trying to think of the future and trying to make good investments. So of course, hearing this news broke my heart. So I'm here to oppose it. Like I said, I have big dreams with this property. I'm a civil engineer. I want to build my dream house. And I want to be able to say that it's located in a good quality neighborhood. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
There's none. Thank you, ma'am. That was quick.
Mr. President, Board, my name is Jody Guidry. I live at 6500 White Oleander Circle, Rich Charles, Louisiana, 70605. I'm 100% against this project, and this is the reason why. I'm not only a real estate broker, but I'm also a general contractor. I've built the first 2 specs in sugarcane towns. As well as you know, that project took 4 to 5 years to complete. The developers were held to a higher standard in most cases, and they maintained that standard. We were okay with Mr. Fairley when he decided to rezone that property adjacent to it as R1 residential. So now we've held sugarcane to a higher standard. Now the property there, we're going to lower it to add multi-use, basically trailer homes. Although those pictures are really pretty and stuff and all that, but at the end of the day, it's still manufacturing homes. We all saw what happened in Hurricane Laura. with all the manufacturing homes, we don't need additional manufacturing homes in Louisiana, or southwest Louisiana. It's continued being a problem, it's gonna also affect that development. Right now, I'm having a hard time with people wanting to come buy the first step, because they don't wanna be the first one in there. And now we're gonna have a manufacturing home development right next to it. We're gonna kill the comps. We're gonna hurt the development. And they spent 4 to 5 years, multi-million dollars, developing sugarcane towns to have an affordable project for first-time home buyers. Quality homes. My 2 specs, they survived Hurricane Laura with minimum damage. Unlike the manufacturing homes half mile from there. They had debris all over the roads. And as well as we can see in the future, after Hurricane Rita, all of the requirements, codes came up higher for us to meet. And it's going to happen the same thing here. And we're able to maintain those codes to survive the next hurricane. But the manufacturing homes cannot. So I highly encourage each and every one of y'all to vote no on this project. It's not good for the sugarcane development.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
It seems to me, and I may be wrong, but it seems like there's 2 different corporations wanting to fight it out or something. There's one guy said it's his plans and everything else. Is that correct? Did I misunderstand that?
Well, if you don't mind,
trying to understand.
if we don't mind, maybe hold on to those questions, let the applicant come back. We'll get the applicant first.
I'm getting the same.
Are they talking about the homes or the?
We'll cover that in this comment. Mr. Anderson?
And Mr. Chairman, again, and we're talking about land use only.
Right.
The applicant has a right to be here and ask for this action. We don't get involved in civil disputes between people who say they have an ownership interest or some other interest. We can't do that here. We received no orders from any court. We're proceeding here on this application, so we're just talking about land use right now. So with that, I didn't mean to interrupt the applicant again.
Okay. The questions came up regarding these being nothing more than mobile homes. Maybe you want to take the opportunity to explain that maybe a little further?
Well, first of all, as I started out to tell you earlier, there's, I think, a misconception of our intent to what we're planning to do there. Number one, that we've proven our company's been in business 65 years. It's probably the only one that ever made as big a company in the industry and stayed that way. And most of it is because of innovations and things that we've done in housing. Those innovations have paralleled site-built housing. In fact, we're involved in site-built housing as well. But the reason that we do this is to keep affordable houses. We can take affordable homes at $50 a square foot less than housing in the area with comparable values that people can afford. In this area.
Push it? Okay. I'm sorry.
Light's green, you're good. The light there, if it's green, you're good.
I got you. Okay. I apologize. Anyway, the affordability is a critical factor. I live here as well, and I understand what we've gone through here is a difficult time. But hurricanes and the impacts of things that we've had here have been a learning experience for all of us. Site-built houses have been affected as well as manufactured homes have. Many times in manufactured home communities and parks where they're really close together, the debris and the age of the units causes a concern, and I understand that. I've been doing this 40 years myself. I've watched the industry grow and mature. Today's housing is an incredible feat of engineering and quality that wasn't available at one time. That's what this particular project will represent for our community. And I assure you, the affordability factor is critical for the people that live here. I'm also a commissioner for the Fire Marshal's Department that governs our industry, and I've also been very active with the Manufactured Housing Association. And I've watched the things that we've done to try to mature and to change some of the image things that have been there, and also to give the quality that people deserve when they pay their hard-earned dollars for housing. And that's what our attempt is to do here. I assure you that we're financially capable of making it work, doing it the right way, and not disappointing anyone. Everyone will be proud of this development when it's done. Any other questions?
Mr. Little?
Yes, sir.
In regards to your lots and your housing, what kind of square footage are we talking about? What's on these plans that were submitted with the application, or is it going to be bigger or larger than these?
The application, well, if I understand you correctly, sir, the original design and application of the size of the lots was not intended to change, but some of the lots, there are 170 total lots in the subdivision. It's in phases. 35 of those in particular are smaller, that would encompass what you saw in the design with the home that's more narrow, like a narrower lot with a garage and stuff on it. That's another thing we intend to do too, is try to put things like that in there so that we can give people those same things that site-built people have. But those 35 lots will be smaller units, probably 1,400 square feet, things like that. Don't lock me into that specifically. I'm just from the top of my head trying to give you a number. At the next part of that first phase, the 65 lots will have larger lots where you can put in something more like you see in those photographs there, with the porch wrapped around, things like that. Again, garage capabilities and things, and still maintain the setbacks that are required to do that.
Okay.
Now, the back phase, which is across there too, which originally wasn't planned to finish in the original developer's idea, ours is to do it all at one time and get it completed. And I think the beauty about that is that will allow people to have even larger locations, those that can afford that too. The whole thing is built around that to try to keep the affordability factor there and still get the community aspect of it. Paved streets, paved driveways, foundations under the homes, what you see in site-built subdivisions today. That's what we're talking about.
So when you say affordability, what price range?
I'm sorry,
What price range are you putting these houses in? What price range will these houses be?
those houses are designed, and some of the designs that you see there in the smaller houses without a garage are probably going to be around 130, maybe 135,000. And those houses, some of the larger ones on the bigger lots, depending on the garages and things they put on there, could go maybe 2.25, 230, maybe something like that. But you're talking at houses, they're 2,500, 3,000 square foot homes. So, and we're talking about tape and textured drywalls. I mean, site-built house things, elevated roof pitches, porches, as you see. These renderings, this is not the first project this company's taken on. We've done this in numerous places across the United States and had very good success with it. And the communities have been involved in it have loved it because it's been the answer to the affordable housing for them.
Any other questions for Mr. Anderson?
I got a question, maybe you can help us with the staff. The gentleman that spoke just before him, Sugartown, I'm not familiar with Sugartown, but he gave me the impression that the last hurricane that passed through here didn't damage any houses in Sugartown. Now, whether you believe it or not, I believe in climate change, and I'm thinking what we're looking at, and I'm sure y'all gonna address that by staff, that development of the houses in the future gonna have to be able to withstand, because we're gonna have some more hurricanes according to climate change. And I think we see that. And if you build houses that's not gonna withstand these calamities, we're gonna have problems in the future. So I'm just throwing this out for us to think about. That's my thinking. I may be wrong, but maybe somebody can clear me up. I appreciate it.
Go ahead, sir.
One thing I'd like to add about specifically at Sugartown Estates there is a very formidable and a great layout and a good concept. One thing I'd like to point out to you, I hope everyone's aware that in their zoning itself, they have multifamily on the west side of that, adjacent to our property. So it's not all going to be what it appears to be on the first part. The back side of that, going west, is involved in a multifamily development concept, and fairly sizable. So there's the buffer between those houses is also going to be apparent to do that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr.
I
Crane?
think Mr. Crane wanted to
I was going to attempt to answer Coach Williams' question and comment, or address it. At this point in time, in the Sugar Cane Towns development, they've got 2 homes in there that they built, spec homes. That's what Mr. Jody Guidry is referring to. I don't know if they sustained any damage. According to him, it did not. But those are stick-built homes in that particular subdivision. The gentleman, Mr. Anderson, is correct. There is a portion of the property in Sugarcane Towns that is zoned multifamily. We don't know exactly what that's going to be yet, but there's a lot of options. When you have multifamily housing or zone property, you can have multiple types of housing there. That could be attached housing, apartment, anything like that. And yes, Coach Williams, you're correct. We actually haven't debriefed yet on our hurricanes nor the winter storm that we've had. We've had all these events that have happened, but I'm sure we are going through disaster recovery exercises with FEMA. And, a lot of these things are going to be looked at. How do we make, how do we make our codes better to handle or sustain, hurricanes better? It's going to cover the whole gamut. So yes, we're looking into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Little?
We've got an application, and I see a plot plan layout of this estate. If they change this, it doesn't have to come back before us, but does before us if they change this plan? Okay. Thank you.
You got a layout.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Christie, roll call vote.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. DeVrock?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah.
Ms. Cobb?
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson? Yes. Ms. Galicia? Yes. Ms. Whitey? Yes. Ms. Hyatt? Yes. 8-4.
Motion passes. Item 13. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the police jury took the following action on January 21st, 2021 with reference to the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board from January 19th, 2021 meeting. Tyler A. Bate, Sunset Road, Planning and Zoning recommended approval, police jury approved. RLP Land Enterprises, Tom Abear, Planning and Zoning recommended approval, police jury approved. The next item on the agenda is to advise that the next regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting will be held Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Dickerson.
Second.
Second by Ms. Cobb. Motion, meeting is adjourned.